7 days ago. That is how long since I had my mental breakdown. And I don't take those words very lightly. Mental breakdown is a very serious and big thing, and it's something that I've been running from. I've spent so much time thinking that I was just running towards something and not away from anything, and that was a lie I told to myself, right? And it's a lie that I don't think I ever fully believed. I work very hard, I do a lot, and I know that I use work as an escape mechanism, as a way of dealing with stuff that I don't want to, think about or deal with. Right? My emotions being a big one, my problems. I am emotionally intelligent. I work very hard to become a better person, but I have had a lot of shit happen, and it's like everyone else has, but I use work how others use drugs or alcohol or, any other escape mechanism. And up until last week, I hadn't had a day off between school and work since early January. Putting in anywhere between, at least 50 hours for the least each week, and then at most 80. Working 4 days a week, in class 3 days a week, and then homework and stuff and projects and all that. And it got to me. It really did get to me. And I published a book, and I've been working on that and doing a lot. I go to the gym. It's not me bragging. It's admitting to myself what I've been doing. And for a while, everything was fine, and only some people knew about stuff, and I lied to everyone. I lied to myself. I lied to my closest friends. I lied to my parents. My dad started to catch up to it, and it wasn't until I had my full breakdown and I told him that he kind of really said everything, and then there was an emotional dad to son talk, right? And one of the things that really bothered me, he said, "Why do you feel like you can't talk to me?" And it's not that I can't talk to him, it's that I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know. And that's the theme of this year. This year has been a massive test. And I asked God, at the end of 2025, this January is rolling around for the last week of, 2025, and I said, God, test me this year. I've done so much work, and I want to see who I really am. And boy, he took that literally, because he's been testing me so much. This year has been everything that I struggle with. It's been patience. It's been things I can't control. It's been just, every step I take, I feel like I'm being kicked in the dick, and it sucks. And I know others are there, and I'm trying to stay positive. I'm trying to stay happy, and I work on it every single day. I'm not in a defeatist mindset or anything like that. But it's hard. And the funniest part is that I know problems are a feature of life, not a bug. And it's not even the hardest stuff I've dealt with. I've had 4 friends before I turned 18. I had an emotionally abusive ex-stepmom. I've had stuff with my grandma where I moved out of my mom's house, and it's all before I turned 18. And then afterwards, other stuff, and this, the other thing piled on top of it. And I had experiences with a girl that I thought could have been something really great. And then, she ghosted me, and that brought up past abandonment and trust issues and all this stuff. And then maybe in a future episode I'll get into exactly what's going on right now. But I had this friend that became really close after that. And now it feels like I'm never going to talk to her ever again. And it could be me overthinking, because a lot happened in her life, and I'm trying to be there for her. And I also might be using that as a way to escape from my problems. And once again, it's not working. And I think that also scares me sometimes, is the fact that what I usually use to escape my problem, to do my problems, aren't working. The work, I got burnt out. I can't do that anymore. It's kind of an identity crisis. I always thought that I loved work, and I think I like work and being productive, but I'm starting to think that I just hate myself more when I'm not working than I do love actually working. It's a big difference. So maybe that might mean trying to find something else that I really care about to work on, or finding more time to be with myself, or whatever. I'm definitely an insecure overachiever, and that's going to be another episode, right? Some of these might be target episodes, some of these will be talking. To be honest, this is totally selfish. My goal is to post one of these a day, these 3 minutes long, some every 3 minutes, some might be 3 hours. Who knows? And I'm just hoping that through this I learn what I'm feeling, how to communicate it and get it out there. And I hope that whatever problems I'm dealing with, others that do the same thing, they can hear it, they can resonate with it, and it helps them with their problems. But it's been so damn tough, I can't lie to you. And I want to be the person that I say I am. And I know I am that person. But it's times like this where everyone else is finally seeing the work that I've done. I published a book and people are proud of me. They're seeing the man I've become, the way I think, the way I do stuff, all this stuff. And when they're finally seeing this, after the years and years of me putting in the work and my rocky cut scene and all this stuff, and they're finally seeing it, is when I don't feel like myself. I don't feel like the person they are proud of because of what's going on. Even though I know that I am that person, right? It's once again this insecure overachiever thing that blessed me professionally, right? I will do everything to make it the best I can, and even when I do that, I think it's not good enough, it could be even better. The problem is that it's over in my personal life, and it really hurts it, right? I'm an overthinker because I think that whatever I do is not going to be good enough. And sometimes when my overthinking comes true, it reinforces that, And with this friend of mine, without going into too much detail, at least not yet, I feel like, I was trying to, not necessarily save her, but be a good friend. And it might have led me being too much, right? Calling too much, texting too much, checking up on her too much, being too serious, whatever it might be. And now she doesn't answer my phone calls or my texts. And it's been a little over a full day since we talked at all. And we talk every day. And once again, it could be me overthinking, but I feel that there's a possibility of her never speaking to me ever again, and that hurts. And I know I'll get over it, right? I've gotten over it before. Again, I've lost friends to death. I've lost friends to growing apart. I've lost friends in, messy ways. And I just didn't want, obviously no one wants that. But I love being with her. I love being around her. I love the way she smiled and all this stuff. And yes, we kind of did things with each other. But even if we didn't date, I would still be saying this because I want her in my life as my friend. It's only been 2 months of being friends, but we both said we become each other's some best friends, right? Top 2, 3 friends, like closest friends that you're gonna call and text, like all that stuff. And maybe I was wrong, maybe that it wasn't that strong, or maybe it's just not right. I don't know, but I can't shake the feeling that if I don't do everything in my power, I don't know about never forgive myself, but I'll always kind of wonder, And the thing is like, I don't want to fight for someone in my life, but it's also like, she's going through a really tough time. And I'm fighting it so hard right now, but she's the same thing I do, and you detach, you disassociate, you stop, calling friends, texting friends, answering back. And I haven't been doing that with my closest friends, I've been really fighting it because I don't want to be alone anymore. I really fucking don't. I'm so lonely. I'm not alone. I have friends, people I can call, I have people that love me, but I feel so fucking lonely. I've dove so hard into my work and what I do and trying to be better and put in these long ass days and done work when I didn't have to do work because I feel guilty when I take time off. I feel guilty when I go and hang with my friend. I feel guilty when, I stop work early and I watch a TV show or whatever. Even though I started working at 6 to 10 and then, I don't know, let's say 12 to 6, You know what I mean? Like, put in those days. And in between that, I went to the gym, right? And it's like most of my days, I still feel guilty doing that sometimes. Most of the time, you know, and it leads me to burnout, leads me to where I am now, you know, and it sucks. And I gotta figure it out. And that's what it's gonna be. This is not gonna be a bitching, moaning, complaining session. This is going to be trying to figure it out. And now some of these might be, oh, this sucks, or getting it out there, but I think we have to do that. And even though my friends always say they're going to listen to me and always do whatever, and that's the other thing, I don't always want to go to bother them, I guess. So I guess I'm putting it out here, and we'll see what happens. You know, it's going to be at least one of these a day. Once again, at least 3 minutes for each of these. Sometimes we might get 2 or 3. Sometimes it might be hours long. Who knows, right? But I think it's important that I do this, and I really hope whoever's listening to this get something out of it. Either I'll be back tomorrow, back in later today, but good, good, good.